news just at this hour. John Thune, the senator from South Dakota, not running for president. We're continuing to see.
Continue to just knock them off the list.
Well, it's the field that isn't. That it's much larger than the field that is. There is no field that is so far, but we're seeing now Mike Pence, John Thune, both saying that they're out. Maybe Mike Huckabee making similar sounds, as you know, about possibly not running for president. Right. Well, Congressman David Wu of Oregon was the subject of a pretty scathing article in the Portland Oregonian a few days ago, talking about some erratic behavior. He spoke out for the first time publicly on the subject this morning on Good Morning America. Take a look at some of that interview.
I did some things, I said some things, which I sincerely regret now. And as a result of those things, I saw fit to consult professional help. I got the help I needed then. I'm continuing to consult medical help as I need it, and I'm in a good place now. I emphatically can do that job. I am doing that job.
Well, a very emotional and very personal reaction here from David Wu, opening up in the first explanation he had for that story on Good Morning America today. Joining us now, Ariane de Vogue, who is our ABC News Supreme Court reporter extraordinaire. And this is a big week here for the Supreme Court. Ariane, can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking for and why we're looking at the Supreme Court?
Well, the court's just now back from their winter recess, so there's some interesting cases coming up. Probably the most interesting opinion we're waiting for is the Westboro Baptist Church. This is the group of people that are going across the country and protesting at military funerals. The congregation is made up mostly of the Faust family, and they go and they show up with terrible placards saying unbelievably incendiary things because they believe in part that soldiers are dying because the military allows homosexuals to serve. It's using these funerals as a platform for their message.
Any hints from the oral arguments, Ariane, about where the court might be leaning on this? Obviously, these are some critical free speech issues that get raised.
Well, they really struggled with it. You know, I traveled with these people. Terry Moran did a piece for Nightline, and I was in the van with them. And even the younger generation, these fresh scrubbed girls saying the most hateful things on the way to Arlington National Cemetery. And the justices really did struggle because they're going to have to weigh the free speech rights of the protesters versus the rights of the families, like Albert Snyder, who is suing them. And he's suing them because they protested at his son's funeral, and his son was not a homosexual, and he says that it violated his privacy rights. So it's an interesting thing. It's the free speech of the protesters versus the privacy rights of the families that are mourning. It's a very interesting case.
Very much. And we also know here in Washington, the political hot potato, of course, is health care. We're seeing both at the state level and at the federal level, there are elected officials asking the Supreme Court to actually expedite the process and hear the constitutionality case of the new health care reform bill. What do you think is going to happen there? Any signs that the court's going to take this up?
Well, look, the judicial scorecard now is 2-2. 2 district courts have upheld the law and 2 have thrown it out, saying that the individual mandate is unconstitutional. So normally it goes on now to the appeals courts across the country. But Virginia has stepped in and is asking the Supreme Court to take it up now. Virginia says this is such a serious matter, the court has to look into it, and it's of national importance. But I don't see the Supreme Court taking it up now. They like things to go through the normal process. They like to hear from the appellate judges. They don't like to interrupt the process, even if you have people saying that it has to be decided this term. So I think we'll see it probably at the Supreme Court in about a year or a year and a half.
Ariane, we got about a minute left, but I want to just get your sense of the kind of the tenor of the court. We've seen the Roberts Court begin to take hold. Obviously, a couple of new justices coming in the last few years. What's the feeling inside that room these days during oral arguments, which can often get heated and contested?
Well, I have to tell you, I started covering the court at the end of the Rehnquist era, and you'd hear Justice Scalia always had questions. Justice Breyer had long hypothetical, but you really heard from the lawyers a lot. That's all changed now. Justice Sonia Sotomayor gets in there and she asks lots of questions and follow-up questions. Justice Elena Kagan steps in. She took Justice Stevens' seat and she asks more questions than he did. And it's amazing because Chief Justice John Roberts often has to step in as a traffic judge, traffic cop, because his justices are always interrupting each other. But there's one exception, and that's Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas hasn't asked a question for 5 years.
Wow, and when that happens, we expect to hear about. We'll have you back on to talk about that, that historic occasion when it happens. Ariane de Vogue covering the Supreme Court for us. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, Amy, I just still astounded by the fact that there were still no candidates for president on the Republican side. This time 4 years ago.
We're getting so close. Maybe by April, May.
You think somebody get in already. Announce on our air. We'll be right here. Twitter.com/Rick Klein. Twitter.com/Amy E. Walter. Somebody's got to run.